You're listening to episode 133 of Present Moment. Welcome to Present Moment, Mindfulness, Practice, and Science. I'm Ted Meissner. Present Moment is a podcast with interviews, conversations, and roundtable discussions. We speak with mindfulness teachers about their newest findings published in peer-reviewed science journals, teachers about their understanding and methods as they work with students of mindfulness, authors about their books and interests, and we also speak with everyday practitioners. The website presentmomentmindfulness.com has show notes for each episode along with resource materials. Liz Rutledge joins us to speak about mindfulness with nature and Sustainable 3. If you're listening to this podcast and find value and insights from what is shared here, know that this is made available from your generosity and the generosity of others like you. I want to thank those of you who are making monthly donations to keep this podcast going. And if you're not yet, please take a moment, go to presentmomentmindfulness.com and click on Make a Donation. One-time or especially monthly donations show you value this work, which can't happen without you. Thank you for your help, your support, and your kind generosity. Lately, there have been a lot of conversations about mindfulness and the ways in which it's growing in Western society. Knowing that there is no singular culture in that very big environment, mindfulness is arising in many ways. Some of them are, I think, missing a core aspect of mindfulness in that they are like an exchange. If you do mindful meditation, you will get some results. And though there may be outcomes from practice, certainly there are for many of us who live mindfully as best we can, making it transactional can also make it somewhat mercenary. Mindfulness as I teach and practice it has wider implications and is in service of changes beyond what happens on the cushion. Liz Rutledge is deeply passionate about the environment and has been doing mindfulness in one form or another since she was 10 years old. She teaches mindfulness at schools in the Denver area and is in the process of getting her Mindful Schools certification. Liz teaches people how to compost, garden, recycle, and other sustainability activities. She is a blogger and has written the blog on sustainable3.com since 2014. In addition, Liz is a freelance writer and dabbles in novels, editorials, and other blogs. Our guest today is Liz Rutledge. Liz, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you. Glad you're here.
Thank you, Ted.
So I really like to dive in with a bit about your background and then get into the heart of what we're going to be talking about here too, which is a bit of a follow-up from the last interview where we were talking about mindfulness and bird watching, specifically owls. We're a bit on a theme which I'm seeing more and more come up in this podcast and the other one that I do on environmental concerns and how mindfulness can help with that. But Liz, let's start by having you tell a bit about your background.
Okay, great. Well, I have been doing my blog at sustainable3.com since 2014 because I became very aware very quickly of the fact that we're not doing enough quick enough to help our planet be healthy for us to live on it. And so I started with this blog, just trying to help people have sort of levels of depth, because I think true sustainable living is really hard for the average person. But maybe we can take little steps. So the 1, 2, 3 is sort of like, maybe if you don't recycle, you start recycling, and maybe level 2 is you add in composting, and maybe level 3 is you start tear weight shopping or something like that. So my blog is meant to be simple, easy steps to take towards living more sustainably and just being conscious of the choices that we're making. Coincidentally, that same year, a older sibling of a friend of my daughter's, who was 12 at the time, took his own life. And I thought, how ridiculous. How does anyone that age even know how to do that? And I went to the school and I said, what can I do? This is insane that kids are taking their own lives, and I'd like to help them in some way. And I ended up, the short story is, I've been teaching mindfulness at that middle school for 5 years. So I was doing this mindfulness thing and I was doing the sustainability thing. And then last year, I sort of realized it's all mindfulness. It's a mindfulness about ourselves, it's mindfulness about our community, and mindfulness about our planet. So that's sort of my slogan. But that's how Sustainable 3 came about. My background, basically, the only background I have around the environment is that I grew up in Colorado, and I just really care about the environment and having clean air to breathe and fresh water to drink and healthy food to eat. And because I've had 3 children, I want to have the planet be a place that they can live going forward.
Yeah. You bring up an interesting point as you're talking about teaching mindfulness in the middle school and having this moment of realization that no, this isn't just this one thing. It's not a technique in this one particular circumstance. It's really everything in our lives. And so I'm wondering, in your own background with mindfulness, how has that shown up? How is mindfulness practice? What's that look like for you in your day-to-day life?
Well, I think the best way to start talking about that is to talk about the first time I'm conscious of actually being mindful. So when I was 10, I woke up one Saturday morning and my chest hurt so bad I thought I was dying. I literally got up, went to my dad, said, I'm dying. I need to go to the hospital. I think I actually grabbed his car keys to try to get him to take me to the hospital faster. And I'm out by the car, and he gently walks me back inside and has me lay down on the bed. And he puts his hand on my stomach and he said, breathe. And I remember a very vivid memory of watching my belly go up and down, and just that panic attack of what it must have been, having a bad dream or something. And that chest pain was just literally panic fading away. But my mother also had a lot of that sort of body mind awareness. And she would say, if I got hurt, she would say, see if you can imagine the pain like an ice cube melting. And then later when I had babies, it was Lamaze breathing. But that's sort of that background. But now as an adult, I sort of use it in those formats in general. But as an adult, I think it's really important to have a daily kind of a practice, so that the way we take our vitamins and we drink our water and we exercise, we make sure we take some time to get present. So for me, because I don't want to miss out on it, first thing in the morning, I have a little routine where I start a cup of tea and I go and I meditate for 3 minutes to make sure that I get some sort of meditation in the day. And then I do a gratitude practice, think of something I'm thankful for that day. And then I sort of design my day of how I'd like to go, what I'd like to accomplish that day, and just sort of try to visualize it going smoothly. And that whole process only takes about 10 minutes. And that's sort of my daily, but then it comes down to moments like in traffic, where if you're stuck in traffic and you're sitting there wanting to cuss somebody out, taking a moment and seeing, or like if you're at a red light, taking a moment and seeing that as an opportunity to just get really present and see it as a gift of like some time to take a few deep breaths. It can also show up as, if you're eating a meal, are you gobbling it down while you're watching a YouTube video like my teenagers do? Or are you taking the time to taste your food and smell the aromas of the food? And even maybe try to witness how it goes down into your stomach, and pay attention to your digestion and that kind of thing. Because I forget what it is, but it's something like 30% of our digestion starts before the food even hits our mouth. The saliva starts producing the moment we see that. If I say lemon, you can probably witness what I'm talking about. So I could go on and on and on, but basically that's what I try to teach the kids. And I also teach elementary school kids about, mindfulness can show up in the way we treat others, the way we show up, when we eat, how we smell, how we listen, how we see. And I find that I follow the Mindful Schools curriculum when I work with them, and there's all kinds of ways to bring it into their consciousness, like movement and all the other things I just mentioned. So,
Yeah. How did you find out about the Mindful Schools program?
well, when I started doing the mindfulness at the middle school, I met a woman, Christina Sevilla, who was already Mindful Schools certified.
Mhm.
And she talked about it for years, and we sort of worked together with the curriculum. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I'm actually in the process of getting my Mindful Schools certification, but it was just literally word of mouth. But they've been up to what they're doing for years and doing great work.
Yeah, they really have, and quite a number of folks I'm familiar with, and friends with a couple of their folks over there. They do. For those of you who are listening to this podcast and haven't checked into Mindful Schools, be sure that you do that, particularly if you're interested in teaching mindfulness within middle schools. At that age, it's a particularly good and robust program by really good teachers. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
So I want to shift a little bit to Sustainable 3. What is that? What are the three?
Well, the three originally started as, like I said, like the levels of depth. But since I've merged the sustainability and mindfulness, it's also three deep breaths. We're the third planet from the sun. I have three children, and my logo sort of looks like leaves or whales or the turbines on a wind propeller. And it just sort of represents, the three things that I mentioned: mindfulness about ourselves, our community, our planet. It can have many different meanings, in my opinion. I originally wanted it to be sustainable me, but that was already taken in 2014. So I decided, you know what, why not? Thinking that those three stages of depth of sustainability would be of interest to people, make it be more digestible. But it's just sort of evolved, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm keeping it.
So you started it as a blog, correct? And then is it grown from there into something a bit more than a blog?
Yes, I have a line of cleaning products now that I'm just at sort of the labeling stage, but I also I do yoga and I clean a yoga studio, and learned early on about three essential oils that are naturally antifungal, antibacterial, and antimicrobial. So I started using those oils when I would clean the floor, because yoga studio, you need a little antifungal action going on there. And I turned that into a yoga mat spray for people to use. So then they've been actually paying me for this yoga mat spray at this studio. And that has blossomed into, now I have an all purpose cleaner, a dusting spray, and a window and glass cleaner. And they're all very few ingredients, nothing weird. I've done a lot of research on Environmental Working Group's website, and I can't seem to find very many products that are really actually like A rated, that are affordable. And so rather than, not everybody has time to do it yourself with the cleaners. So I've started making cleaners with the idea being that you buy one bottle and then you just refill it after that. So you're reusing the bottle and you're using contents that are not harmful to the planet, or at least they're better than others.
Yeah.
So that's, and then I've been teaching in the schools and continuing with the blog to try to educate people. And I've also started doing wellness workshops for adults. So trying to capture all the age ranges. So the wellness workshops, I partner with a woman her name is Serena Bullard, and she runs a company called Catch Happiness, and she teaches heart math tools. So we have the mindfulness aspect and then the heart math and resilience tools, and we just sort of combine those in a digestible 3-hour program that's been successful. So we've got 3 more of those on the books for this year, and just trying to help people navigate this, what feels like a very chaotic world right now.
So as you're doing this work, and now it's been a few years that you've been involved with this, what are some of the difficulties that you've been running into, maybe in people's perceptions or the habits in shifting to sustainable living? What's that been like? What do you run into typically?
One of the most frustrating things is that it feels often like people don't care or can't be bothered or it's too hard or I don't even know. I have a neighbor that warms up their car every day for 12 minutes to 30 minutes. And it is just so hard for me too, and I've tried to talk to them and they're like, well, the car needs to warm up. I'm like, no, it doesn't.
Really
But
doesn't.
it's hard when it's your neighbor, and you have to keep a living relationship with those people. But the big part about mindfulness is no judgment, right? So I'm trying to teach from a gentle place where as people are ready for it, I'm providing it, hopefully well. And another frustration I have is simply that, you'll see like in a park or at a facility where they have, or the airport where they'll have like the three, compost, recycling, trash, or landfill, recycling, paper, or whatever. And you actually look inside and it's all mixed up. And that's probably my biggest frustration is that people just don't realize they're trying to do the right thing and put it in the recycle bin, but it's not actually recyclable or whatever it is. And it's different everywhere you live. I think you're in Boston area, Massachusetts. I'm in Colorado. The rules for recycling are different in the different cities in Colorado, let alone different states and different countries. So I think that the education piece is probably the biggest frustration that I have is that people just don't know. And so the biggest hurdle I think I've run into is how to get the word out quickly,
Yeah, I
because we
think,
can't keep going. If China's not going to take our trash anymore, we have to start reusing. We have to.
yeah, and I think in addition to that, with people's intent to do well and not to harm the planet, and being educated on what is the best way to do that, even just having that moment of mindful awareness of what actions they're taking right in this moment as they dump things from the coffee shop into the wrong spot because they're not mindfully just taking a moment and still being present with what goes here and what goes there. And that doesn't really take effort. You're not going to break a sweat doing that. It's not going to kill any brain cells to take that moment. In fact, being more aware as you do these simple actions can be by themselves somewhat uplifting. And I don't mean this in a false way of look at me, I'm doing the right stuff, but in actually, no, just being mindfully present to one's actions itself can be a benefit. So I'm curious also about some of the positive things you've seen and what shifts you do occasionally get to experience with people that you interact with.
Oh, I've got a couple that have just bubbled to the surface. One is that, the straw thing.
Mm.
There was a video about a sea turtle with a straw stuck up its nose, and maybe that only happened one time, but that was really impactful. And this big garbage patch we've got going, I'm starting to see compostable or paper straws or signs that just say straws suck, so we don't provide them at restaurants. And that is really encouraging because I think that is coming from consumers saying, refusing a straw or from awareness building and them choosing the no straw option. It's a tiny thing, but that's something.
But it is
But then
still a thing. It
also,
makes a difference. It would have made a difference to that
yeah,
sea turtle.
yeah, exactly. So, and then I have a friend who, we're talking along at Starbucks or whatever, and get the cardboard sleeve around the cup and
Right.
the plastic lid. And I said, "Did you realize?" I think we were going to throw them away, and I said, "Did you realize that only the lid and the sleeve are recyclable?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that." And I said, "Yeah, it's a bummer because you have to separate, and it's really confusing." Well, now in Denver, they are starting to recycle the coffee cup, so the whole thing is now recyclable. But that's another thing where, in parts of Denver it is accepted and other parts it's not. But just those conversations of, hey, did you know? And demonstrating like I bring my own water bottle when I go places, I bring my own coffee mug when I go places, or I'll ask for a reusable mug at a cafe in front of other people. And I always say like if I'm picking up trash in a parking lot, I'll pick up a few pieces of trash, which is one of my blog posts about picking up litter. I want like 5 people to see me do it. And I've actually had somebody behind me be like, "Hey, you've inspired me and I'm picking up trash too." Like that literally happened.
Mhm.
And I was like, yes. So maybe the next time that guy sees litter in the Target parking lot or wherever I was, he'll do it again. So it's just those little things of, if you see it, you can do something about it. And gosh, could we leave the world better than we found it? Wouldn't that be me?
Yeah. It's interesting hearing you talk about the sleeves, because one of the, I think, terrific opportunities in my farmer home in Minneapolis, Caribou Coffee, which is kind of like Starbucks, only it's there in the Twin Cities is where they started. They sell the coffee holders, just the sleeves, and they had different styles and all that. And yeah, as soon as I saw that, I got one of those and have saved it ever since. And I've never had to use the cardboard sleeves. And I think about, well, boy, that was years ago. It was over 10 years ago. And not that I go out for coffee all the time, but that's still a bunch of things that is no longer in landfill or even having to be recycled. It's just not being used. So
Right.
these
No,
small
it's great.
add up over a lifetime times billions of people on the planet. That adds up. Yeah.
It does add up. And I think like we compost at home, and I think about how much trash we actually throw in the landfill versus a family who's not doing that.
Right.
And it's incredible that we're a family of 5, and we have a small garbage bag. And I'd love to say it's nothing, but we recycle and we compost, and I take things to the place that takes styrofoam, but it takes mindfulness, and it takes action, and it takes waiting until you have enough and combining trips to make sure that it's worth recycling the stuff that isn't recycled at the curb. But it's one of the things that I think is in a motivator is for people is money. So if we could start charging by the pound for stuff that's going to go in the landfill, but recycling it would be free, or commercial composting would be free, that would be a motivator. But I don't know what the business model for that looks like. But to your point of like, what can you do in your own activities to reduce or eliminate waste? That's absolutely its own form of mindfulness for sure.
Yeah. So, Liz, is there anything else you want to share with the listeners?
Well, I guess I would just say it's a work in progress, but if you wanted to look at my website, I did just have the amazing opportunity to go witness the monarch butterfly migration in
Awesome.
Mexico. And part of that tour was through the Denver Botanic Gardens, and it was organized by Reefs to Rockies here in Denver. But we went to a vanilla plantation and a coffee plantation and an orchid museum, and then the butterfly sanctuary. And every single one of those places, they said something about, and climate change has affected blank this way. And so if you wanted to look at my blog, I'm posting the monarch butterfly sanctuary post today. Last week, I did sort of the teaser leading up to it. But climate change is absolutely a very real thing. And so, if not my blog, I would just highly encourage people to start figuring out what they can do about it. Because maybe one of our listeners' kids will come up with the fix for one of the problems that we've got. I don't know. But I think it's important.
Yeah. All right. For those listening, you can find out more about this on the website sustainable3.com. And I do have that linked on the episode page for this episode. Our guest today, Liz Rutledge. Liz, thanks for being here. Nice speaking with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about something you've heard in today's podcast, please come visit the website at presentmomentmindfulness.com. You'll find an entire webpage devoted to this and every episode. You can comment on the episode page and find show notes and other helpful resources for your mindfulness practice. The shakuhachi music heard on Present Moment is used by permission and through the generosity of musician Rodrigo Rodriguez. His website is linked on the Present Moment website on the About podcast music page. Sound editing, mixing, and mastering provided by the generosity of Anthony Dominello of StructureFromSound.com. Until next time, remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. See you next time on Present Moment.